Tonight on One Brothas Mind, we're going to see how far the rabbit hole goes. We're going to show you things you didn't know and some things you need to know. Also, we're going to show you some things that may surprise you. In addition, some things that may have you tripping. Or finally, we're going to show you some things you just may not believe. In any event, fasten your seatbelts, get your popcorn ready, and join Katie Smooth here at One Brothas Mind as we take a look and see how far the rabbit hole goes. But remember, always do your own research and you be the judge. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's Katie Smooth coming back at you from One Brothas Mind. I pray you all are well. Family, glad you could join us for this rabbit hole report number 3. Family, today in this report, we're going to share with you just kind of a random collection or hodgepodge, a mosaic of a lot of little known information that's out here in these internet streets. Some things you may not have seen before, or as I said, you may not know about. Some of them you may already know about. But we're going to put them together for you in rapid fire. In this series 3 of the rabbit hole, these video clips, family, are going to be a little bit longer or a little bit more extended than the previous first two. First two we were sharing with you mostly clips from TikTok. Today we're gonna dig in a little bit more on YouTube and show you some things that are out there, like I said, that you may not be aware of. So fasten your seatbelts. We're going to do this, okay? So, y'all, we're about to begin. Again, I hope y'all well. Actually, before we get started, I hope that family, I hope that you hit the like button. Y'all appreciate this content. Hit the like button, man. Smash the likes. All right. Help us grow our channel. Be sure to be subscribed and turn on all notifications so you get these alerts when we upload new content or go live, so you can check us out. And share this report on all your social media pages with your peoples. Make sure that they get to enjoy and learn from this content as well. Now, without further ado, we're going to jump right in. Like I said, this is going to be a mosaic, a hodgepodge, a potluck of some stuff. So, and these videos, like I said, they're going to be just a little bit more extended. Each one is probably, or most of them is probably going to be about 5 to some even up to 8 minutes long. But this is some information that if you don't know, you need to know. Okay. All right, so we're about to get started here. Right about now. All right, here we go, y'all. Count down. 1.
My brother and I read a book called The Mark of Oppression. And these two publishers, Cardiner and Oversea, said that they could not understand how is it that a group of people, African Americans, have been bludgeoned over the heads mentally and spiritually for hundreds of years and are still surviving. They couldn't understand it, and they said so in their book. The answer came out in 1996, why it is that not only have African Americans survived the worst mental and spiritual bludgeoning of any people in recorded history, but they are becoming champions of everything in which there is a level playing field. No matter what it is, we predominate in every field. This is why they won't teach our children African history, because they know that once our children get on the same level playing field as their white counterparts, that they will dominate just like we dominate in basketball, baseball, football, track and field, and anything else in which there is a level playing field. So that while they teach their children about the greatness of their European ancestors, they won't teach our children about the greatness of their African ancestors, because then that would be a level playing field in academia, and they know that we will predominate just like all of these examples we've given them, that our children predominate when they know who they are from the African historical point of view. Now here's what I found out in 1996. A group of geneticists wrote this book. Little tiny book. Geneticists.
Can you identify where they're from and the group, how it came about?
Yeah, okay. All right, sure. Yes, indeed. An organization is called the American Association for the Advancement of Science. The American Association for the Advancement of Science. Now, this organization is composed of people who study about DNA and the genome. And you've been reading about the DNA and the genomes. Well, this group of scientists came upon an idea by accident at first, that different groups of people had different numbers of DNA series.
Explain that.
Now, a DNA series means that when your DNA is located, and say they get a hair from your head and they subject it to certain tests, they say, well, this is the DNA of Minister Brown, and yours is different from everybody else in the world, all right? Then they found further that not only are their DNA series different, but the number of DNAs in there are different in different groups. Whites have a different number of DNA, and blacks have a different number of DNA series. Apes have a different number of DNA series. Then they found this amazing thing, that the greater the number of DNA series, the smarter the person, the group is, the greater the probability of genius within that group. So they tested the orangutans, these 15 geneticists from around the world. Now, these geneticists came from 9 different universities, and we have here on the cover of the pamphlet they put out.
Whatever you do,
Getting the sound, skipping those commercials, y'all.
The names of these geneticists. And you can see them right there, right beneath the title of this pamphlet. Now this pamphlet, most people have no idea what it means. But breaking it down, and after you study it and have it explained to you by a geneticist, a trained geneticist, you will find that they're talking about DNA series. Now here are the names of these 15 geneticists from around the world: University of Japan, University of China. Yale University is the headquarters of this organization called the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And you see it down there. Now this was copyrighted in 1996. All right. What it said is this, and this is the mind-blowing part. It said that when they tested the orangutan, they found out he only had 3 DNA series. When they tested the gorilla, they found that the gorilla has 4 DNA series because he's a little smarter than the orangutan. They tested the chimpanzee, which is an ape, and found that he had 5 DNA series. Then they went all into the different races of the world. They went into Europe and tested the DNA series of the English, the French, the German, the Spanish, the Russians, and found they had 6 DNA series. Then they put all of this, what they found from around the world, on a map. And this map really is called the intelligence map of the world, because they tested 116 different human groups and found their DNA series numbers. All of them, all over the world, have 6. And they put the numbers in form of a little flag that you can see on this map. These little flags have a color. And they show, oh, this is upside down. I'm sorry. Yeah. And they show that the English have only 6, and all into Europe, only 6. Went over into Japan and China, and they only have 6. Over into America, which is predominantly European, and they only have 6. Then they came to Africa, and they came to the part of Africa. Now, all the rest of them, they put in little flag colors. Those flag colors are orange, red, if you notice. But when they came to Africa, found out that the African people have 9.
What?
9 DNA series. From here, just below the Shanghai Empire, down to the foot of Africa. All those 10 nations, of which African Americans descended from one of them. We have 9 DNA series, the greatest possibility of genius in our group. Now it's answered this age-old question. How can a people survive being told they're nothing for 400 years, never allowed to learn that they came from beautiful cities, and told they came from a jungle? How could a people survive? How can a people become champions in everything they touch? Because they have 9 DNA series, while the rest of the world has only 6. This is why they copyrighted this. And you'll notice on the outside of this, now this map is taken, I took this map right from this page here, and I blew it up so that the world could see it. Even though this is copyrighted, I can't let you have this book because it's copyrighted. The title of the book is called Global Patterns of Linkage, Disequilibrium at the CD4 Locus and Modern Human Origins.
Hey guys, Toby Mathis here.
Once again, family, gotta keep these commercials out of here, or we're gonna try at least. All right, here we go.
Global Patterns of Linkage, Disequilibrium at the CD4 Locus and Modern Human Origins. Now you have to be a geneticist to even know what they're talking about. But when we broke it down and interviewed Dr. Kidd, the head, he's the chairman at Yale University. We broke it down into plain, everyday English so that the world would know that the African American is descended from those people who gave to the world the Great Pyramid, gave to the world science, gave to the world mathematics. A black man named Amos gave algebra to the world 3,700 years ago. It's in the world books, it's in the encyclopedias. They don't want our children to know this, because then that would make the playing field level for white children. And you know what happens when they made the playing field level in basketball and allowed black men to play. Out of 29 of the top-seeded players in the world today, 28 are African American. When they opened up the Penn relays, when they opened up the Olympics and allowed blacks to run back in 1932, we've won all the gold medals. And the same thing will happen in the classroom when they allow our children to learn their African history. That's what this is saying.
Dr. Robinson, are you saying that the African American also has 9 strands of DNA?
I am saying that we are descended from the West Africans who have 9 DNA series. On this map that these geneticists, you see the green down here? Well, that's where we're from. That's where African Americans are from.
Did they test African Americans?
They couldn't. They tested Americans as a group, whites, and they have 6. They didn't test African Americans because they know that we are the same people from West Africa.
So they didn't have to?
Didn't have to.
Okay, that's true.
That's true.
How is it that you think that this evolved, that we evolved with 9 strands?
Notice, family, he said and confirmed, as I've been also, and many others have been sharing with you out here on these YouTube streets, that they keep placing banning our channels or placing our channels under shadow bans and blocking our content. They know we are the same people that descended from these groups, especially there on the west coast of Africa during the transatlantic slave trade. The key point is they know. They've always known. Let's continue.
9.
Below the Sahara.
Well, it tells you in here. This book tells why. Preemie babies, they're leaving the mother's womb too early, never develop to the same height that a baby that runs a full term. Right?
Yes.
White folks in the China, all mankind arose in Africa. All mankind arose arose in this part of Africa, right here. It's called the womb of Africa. That's the womb of Africa over here, right there.
Between the Middle East.
No. That Kenya,
Uganda.
yeah, that area. All mankind arose there. The great granddaddies of white folks, great granddaddies of Chinese, great granddaddies of Japanese, our great granddaddies, all of us look the same. All look like apes. That was what? Called Australopithecus.
At this point, family, this is where I kind of deviate from the information or viewpoint that he's providing. He gets here, it begins to get into more of an evolutionary or evolution standpoint or viewpoint, and being well, let's just say I don't, I'm not a proponent of the evolutionary viewpoint, but to each his own.
I don't know how technical you want me to get. Australopithecus was the granddaddy, great-great-granddaddy of all races. Now, they left the womb 800,000 years ago. Whites left the womb and wandered up into Europe, and the Chinese wandered over into Asia. And they left the womb before they were fully developed. That's why they did not develop melanin like we did. Those of us who stayed developed full term. They never developed the melanin stimulating hormone. This is why we're the only race on the planet that does not have head lice in our hair.
Head lice.
Head lice. They're little bugs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cooties, right.
Cooties. We're the only race on the planet because we developed full term. We lost our straight hair, that animal hair, over 150,000 years ago. You see, all other races have head lice because they never developed fully. Melanin is this magical chemical that is developed on the 5th layer of the epidermis of your skin. Now, we've been brainwashed to believe that the less melanin you have, the prettier you are, because that's the brainwash. Yes. That's like saying a naked person is prettier than a person with beautiful clothes on. If you get yes, what I'm trying to say, the scenario, yeah. Melanin heals. When you cut yourself, the melanin rushes to the surface of the skin and forms a scab. What color is that scab? I don't care what color. Brown, dark brown. Right. That's the melanin coming up to heal you. This is why we do not get skin cancer, because of the melanin prevents it. The only place where we can get skin cancer, we learned it in the inquiry today, is on the palm of the hand and the fingers. And can't believe we'd be putting our hand up to the sun to get skin cancer.
All right, guys. So that.
Yeah. Quite a bit of information there for you. We're gonna keep this train rolling. Excuse me, family. Got some more for you. What do y'all think? I mean, you tell me. There's so much information out here, family. This is one of the reasons why they're wiping the internet. Okay. By this point, they're going crazy, eliminating a lot of the information and content on the internet, because the internet, which is, they didn't design it for this, but the internet let a lot of the information, that basically let the cat out the bag on a lot of information. And so a lot of this information is slowly but surely being wiped from the internet. Because too many people are finding out and discovering and doing their research and learning large portions of the truth, which is exactly what I'm going to be sharing with you today. A variety of elements of the truth, the real truth. Okay, family? Did you know this? Some of y'all did, but many of y'all did not. Especially those of you who are younger. It's not to say that we as African Americans are better than anybody else. No, it's just scientific fact. As far as those strands of DNA, and especially the other part that when he started to discuss melanin. You know, melanin actually has the ability to charge batteries. Melanin's got, man, do your research. Melanin's got a lot of different properties and whatnot. It's your mind will be blown if you get into researching melanin. Okay. All right. So we're gonna go into this one, family. This one, since Katie Smooth is from coming at you from Indianapolis, Indiana. This is one I've told people about this, and they didn't really believe me. But yeah, this is one coming out of Naptown, Indianapolis, Indiana. This one is going to share with you information about the origins and with Indianapolis, Indiana, as far as a city goes. And it's going to look to provide information as to whether or not Indianapolis, Indiana is a pagan city or not. Okay. Yeah. There's not going to be any sound to this video. Nobody talking. But there will be text on the screen that you're going to have to read, and I'll try to pause as often as I can so you get a second to a little bit more time to read the text that's on the screen. But yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's get this going. You're gonna be amazed. This is gonna show you a lot of the original things, original artwork, original, just all kind of stuff that has since been removed. You see that owl back there? Some of you know what that means. Yeah. That was a Canaanite structure in that park. And this is in University Park, home of the consort of Baal, Ashtaroth, aka Ishtar. Yeah. These idols and statues and things, they've been, you see, this is probably, I'd say this is probably taken somewhere around in the 70s, because most of these structures have been removed. That's a statue for the daughter of Pagan. Do your research. But here's the question. Just because these things, most of them have been removed, that doesn't mean that those who, let's say, push this ideology, just because you remove the statue doesn't mean the ideology, the belief system, the power structure, the influence, that doesn't mean that goes away, just the item. Which is why I'm sharing this with you, because a lot of y'all, especially my young listeners, y'all didn't get to see this stuff, that it was here, okay? Don't trip you out. That's right there in our downtown Indianapolis area. And this one, it says they placed their god of all things, goat, G-O-A-T, or Pan, on his pedestal. It's right downtown, y'all. The stuff was already here. He's got little goat hooves are his feet. You notice that. You pause the video. Hold there. You can't really see it real good there, but he got little goat hooves. Look at the symbology or symbolism. Now we're talking about the Indiana War Memorial. Look at the doors. Close your mouth. Close your mouth.
What?
Yeah, of the Indiana War Memorial. It's the Temple of Ishtar. I've mentioned this stuff to people for years, and of course they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, man, the proof is out there. Worshiping the sun. There's the all-seeing eye. And in fact, if you look at it in a certain way, first, if you focus on the circle or circle-like shape, that's the all-seeing eye. But if you pan back, many of you are seeing it, you're like, that looks like a skull with vampire teeth or something. All three of them. Just pull your sight back. Focus in on the more circular shape at the top. That's the all-seeing eye. But if you pan back, pull back, it looks like three skulls. Y'all. Yeah, let's go, y'all. Oh, man. Yeah, the sun, moon, and stars. It's looks like another sun symbol. And the stars, the sun, the moon. You got the sun, the star. They showed the sun over there. Where's the moon at? Is that it up top? No, that's the all-seeing eye. All right, y'all. You got to research this stuff. The headquarters of the Scottish Rite. What is that? Do your research. You do your research on these types of things and these groups, you'll find out where the real money is in not only here in Indianapolis, but do some research, try to find some information about your city like this, because a lot of people have documented, like the person did with this one. A lot of people have documented and put this information out, and you need to at least see it. If not, when you do see it, capture it, download it, because it's not going to be available for long. Like I said, they are wiping the intranets. I mean, people like I try to do my part, but people people trying to re-upload this content out here that's harder to find, that they're trying to get rid of, to share it again. All right. Here we have a federal obelisk. And I've shared with you guys in previous reports here on One Brothas Mind on what the obelisk actually mean. They are a tribute to a pagan god, and it actually goes all the way back to the Babylonian god and goddess child, the god Nimrod and the goddess Semiramis. And the child that she had, you got to research that story or go into One Brothas Mind. I shared with you guys in my video about paganism and a couple of others, Semiramis' story and her child Tammuz, and how, real quick to her story and his is that at some point her child was eaten by basically a pig. He was attacked and eaten. And the pig ate everything except for his penis. So Semiramis, because that was kind of her thing, she would try to turn everything into some sort of godly meaning. So his penis all of a sudden became a godly symbol, which is where we get the obelisk that are all over the world, still to this day. All right. The cross is displayed on this abominable thing. Yeah. So this person was doing, there that is. This person was doing their own research. Like I said, the pagan goddess, the consort of Baal. He's talking about Semiramis. Baal is another name for Nimrod that I just mentioned. But this person was doing their research. Okay? And you slowly, you gotta, as you do your research, you'll get some confusing and even some conflicting info, but keep researching and eventually you'll start to put together, the common denominators. Yeah, the Ten Commandments as well, family. On their pagan structures. It says here, so why did the state of Indiana desecrate and profane the cross and the Ten Commandments with these graven images of pagan gods? If it's not a pagan city. I mean, has the state of Indiana actually been made into a god? A pagan goddess that we must serve and bow to her authority? When you understand the monies and the wealth that in these groups and this viewpoint that is being pushed, like in this example here in Indianapolis, this is the funding that's behind our educational system for your children's. And you wonder why the things that they're teaching in schools today, why is that stuff there? Why is it being pushed? Yeah. Here it says is Freemasonry, which is another pagan system? Is Freemasonry the preferred religious establishment of the state? Is the state promoting pagan polytheism? I thought we were a so-called Christian nation, which is pagan also, but I'm not going to get into that. I went down that rabbit hole in my previous report. Catholicism and Christianity, whores or followers of Scripture. Go to One Brothas Mind. I'll try to link that at the end of the video, but yeah. The God of Freemasonry is not the God of the Bible. It's ancient sun worship, Baal worship. Now here, again, he's going back. Remember I told you Baal is another nickname for Nimrod. We're talking about back to the nation of Babylon. Remember in scripture, Nimrod or Baal built the Tower of Babel. After Nimrod died, the story that Semiramis put out, like I said, that was kind of her thing, was, Baal became the sun or the sun god. And that's where this connection is. And you see the Freemasonry symbol with the sun right in the middle. Sun worship. Another one. All this stuff was put out there. This is, like I said, this is probably a video from like the 60s or the 70s here in Indianapolis, Indiana. But, and it says here, and what could be worse than a government that is secretly obedient to a pagan god? A government that illegal society, socially, socializes citizens for their best endeavors to promote pagans' craft or sorcery. Yeah. A couple of those words was a little hard to read because of the glare, but keep letting it play till you can see them closely. But what does it say here? My attachment to the society of which we are members will dispose me to contribute my best endeavors to promote the honor and interest of the craft. Talking about Freemasonry, y'all. This was George Washington, a Freemason. See the date? 1753 or whatever that is to 1799. Did you know? Did you know? Did you know? Did you know? This is one of my favorite videos about Indianapolis because he does such a good job of showing you. Let's see here. What could be worse than a state giving illegal preference to paganism? A state that officially declares is a pagan state and the citizens are so deceived they still can't see it. It says, presented to the people of Indiana from Freemason of, I think that says Indiana, the George Washington Commission. It's a little blurry after that. Grand Lodge. The very same state that does not allow the name of Yeshua the Christ, which is the correct name, or Yeshua HaMashiach, they have Jesus Christ, to be spoken in the House of Chambers, allows a Messianic monument? Did you know? What? An illegal monument that not only promotes paganism, but also socializes support from the citizens. And again, just because a lot of these monuments, these structures have been removed, because more people figured out what they were and came to understand what they were. So there began to be a push going, hey man, y'all gotta get this stuff out of here. Very similar to the push here in most recent years of black people here in America, like, y'all gotta get all these racist Confederate statues. Y'all gotta get these things out of here, man. We know what these things mean and why y'all like these things. In the same vein, a lot of people understood what was really being promoted with these pagan and idolatrous statues and writings and things. So there was a push over time, get this stuff out of here. And they slowly, one by one, would remove them and replace them with other stuff. But just because they remove the structure or the statue or the idol, does that mean the belief and the sentiment that is being pushed on the citizens and your children in school and whatnot, does that mean that that's gone just because they removed the statue or structure? Let's see here, what we got here? So what could be worse than a pagan government, or let me back that up a little bit. Pagan government, or worse than its founder being made into a god? See, apotheosis of Washington. Do your research, family. It's right on your screen. Apotheos, APOTHEOSIS of Washington. Research that. Okay? What could be worse than a pagan state calling its citizens to support and promote pagan polytheism? I know. Uh-oh. The deception is bad, but what does it say? The deception is bad, but desecration is much worse. I mean, this stuff was all over downtown. Let's see. It's a little blurry. It's bad enough that the state violates its own laws to promote pagan religion, but the worst thing is the fact that pagans delight in desecration. Desecrate, combining the pure with the profane. That's what desecration means. You're polluting something that was supposed to be pure, which is the same point that I made, family, with you guys in my previous report on Catholicism and Christianity. That's what Rome did. The Romans, the Greeks, the Hellenians, they took our Hebrew Israelite text, scripture, and they desecrated it by adding a bunch of stuff to it, changing and adjusting a bunch of stuff, adding pagan gods and holidays, and man, the stuff that they changed the day that the Sabbath is on. It's not Sunday. The Sabbath, it starts on sundown Friday evening and continues till sundown Saturday evening. That's the real Sabbath. But you go to church on Sunday. You keep Sunday holy. Why? Desecration. Pagan state desecrated the Ten Commandments with the graven image of the pagan god of Freemasonry. Not to mention, the state also modified this sacred text by removing the second commandment. Do you know what the second commandment was? What was it? Ooh-wee. It's supposed to be the Ten Commandments, and they removed the second one. So it's only 9 on here. Is any more evidence needed to prove the state of Indiana is a pagan state? And for many of you that don't know, another side note, a lot of y'all don't know that our downtown structure, or like the way the streets are set up, downtown Indianapolis, Indiana, is set up exactly the same way, or originally, as Washington, D.C. That's why you got the street names, you got Meridian, the Capitol, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Delaware, all of it's set up the exact same way. Did you know that? Or at least originally. Now, there's probably been some modifications in D.C. here or there since then, but the original designs were exactly the same. Yeah. All seeing eye, right over top of the 10 commandments, or 9 commandments, because they took out the second one. Then read the third sentence of the official state poem adopted into law by the Indiana House. Look it up. Here we go. I must heed the native call, for a pagan voice within me seems to answer it all. What? Yeah. Oh, it goes, the rabbit hole goes so deep, family. It goes so deep. Did you know? There we go. There we go, y'all. So that was that one. Again, all of these videos, family, you can actually find them out here in these YouTube streets. But yeah. All right, we're gonna keep it going. Got another one to share with you. We're gonna see if you knew about this. Hold on. Let's start that over right quick. Hold on. Let me get it right for you. All right, there we go. Turn the sound up. Here we go.
This case, can you quickly explain how Bayer was able to sell HIV-contaminated blood products to the public and how early Bayer knew about the problem?
Well, they knew about it within a year and a half after the product was on the market. They knew there was some contamination in the blood that was causing some very serious illness. And they said, well, gee, we didn't know that was HIV. We didn't know it was AIDS. Well, they did. All they had to do was do basic testing even at that point. But what's worse is once they knew that whatever it was in the blood was killing people, they said, you know what, we're going to take it off the market here. And then they immediately started selling in places like South America and Asia, where people actually went to prison. You had actually people working for the companies overseas going to prison. Nobody went to prison here. They killed thousands of people. They knowingly killed thousands of people. Because you know why? Because they said, we have all of this stuff in stock. We have to do something with it, so what are we going to do? We're going to sell it to a place where nobody knows about it. And so you'd have children that would infect the entire family with the AIDS virus. And interestingly enough, again, nobody went to prison in the United States.
Wow, I guess just a bunch of market casualties there, huh? I mean, wow, what an unbelievable criminal act here. Why were there no criminal charges against top executives at the company in this own country?
Well, at that point, they had started developing a lobby. I actually handled part of that case, and they sent so much lobby money to Washington, D.C., that the Department of Justice didn't do what they should have done. But we're seeing this with designer drug products that are killing and crippling consumers, Abby, all over the United States. Typically, they make it to the market with the same steps. First, the industry capitalizes on direct-to-consumer advertising laws that are only good in the United States and Australia, where they can tell a consumer, hey, use our drug, use our factor 8 drug, and it'll solve your problem with clotting. And then that's direct-to-consumer advertising that you don't see anywhere else. So they create the need for the market. They even go as far as creating diseases sometimes. They create diagnosable diseases that we've never even heard of before. Turn on your TV on most days and you'll see drugs being hustled for everything ranging from restless feet to restless eyes, for God's sakes. Feeling old, you take testosterone gel. Feeling underperformer, you take Viagra. Feeling sad, mad, or overly glad, you pop a pink pill or two and you're good as new. The first step for any accomplished drug hustler is to create the need for this endless market with an advertising blitz, and that's the new designer drug approach. That's only the first step. And the first step, too, of course, is to hustle the FDA and use the FDA insiders that you're paying money to indirectly to go to work.
What a mess. I mean, this is just so insane, though, because, I mean, knowingly infecting people and then sending it to developing countries that you know is tainted medication here that could cause HIV. I mean, it's just a whole nother level of insanity here, Mike. I mean, you've called it a rogue operation. I wanted you to talk first about why you called it that, and then also how the notion of corporate personhood plays into these type of cases.
Yeah, in many countries, when a company does this type of thing, they lose their right to be a corporate person. They get the death penalty. Abby, they're told you can't do business in here. You're a repeat offender. Bayer has more repeat offending fines and criminal sanctions of any company I've ever worked against, and I've been doing this for 30 years. They're all equally bad in one way or another, but the point is, until you say to a company, you do this once, we're going to maybe look the other way. You do it twice, you're going to lose your license to do business. Until we do that, you're always going to have that criminal culture. They're a rogue company in many ways, but now it's kind of the regular way of doing business in the United States. It's called big risk and quick profits. MBAs come out of school and they're moving through. They take a position on the board of a company like Bayer. They know they're only going to be there for a few years, so they break every rule they can. They push the law to the max, and they make as much money as they can in bonuses, and then they leave the mess for the next CEO to come along. It's the new way of doing business. It is the new model for pharmaceutical companies nowadays. Used to be a CEO would stay with the company, Abby, for 25, 30 years. Not anymore. They're young kids, MBAs, moving through, trying to grab up as much profit as they can. The decisions they make most of the time are criminal. And I don't overstate that. They are criminal decisions, and we look the other way and say it's okay for you to do that. It's just the way we're doing business in the United States.
But it's just insane, Mike, and I don't think a lot of people realize that there's only direct-to-consumer advertising with pharmaceutical companies here in New Zealand. So it really is this kind of, in terms of big pharma, I mean, this is a very, very unique problem here in America. I mean, a study just came out by author Brandon Garrett that examined 303 non-prosecution, deferred prosecution deals between corporations and the government between 2001 and 2014 and found that only 34% of the time was an individual charged with a crime, and of those, only 42% received any jail time. I mean, obviously, this Bayer thing happened long before the corporate personhood thing. I mean, how did our judicial system evolve to treat corporate crime so differently than street crime?
Well, it became a matter of money. There was a time when the pharmaceutical industry, and it was right around the time of this Bayer case we're talking about, that they figured out if we give the same amount of money to Democrats as we do to Republicans, then we've covered ourselves on both ways. For example, Loretta Lynch, the new AG that Obama's trying to push through. Democrats are looking like, oh, this woman's wonderful. Well, she's not wonderful. She's simply a corporate hack, just like the other people that have come before her. But the industry, the drug industry, figured out we have to cover both sides of the aisle, so they started spreading around huge money to Democrats, just like Republicans, and they passed laws that allowed them to do things like direct-to-consumer advertising. They passed laws to make it almost impossible to meet the criminal threshold for a white-collar criminal who's dressed up in an Armani suit. And so they made it so difficult to where these guys running these companies, they don't feel any risk at all. They feel no risk at all because they say, yeah, we're a person, but we're a person that's so big that you can't put us in jail because you can't pinpoint who made the decision.
Unbelievable. Thank
Yeah, family. Did you know? Did you know? Did you know? Close your mouth. All right. We're going to keep it going here. We're going to keep it going. Got another one for you. Yeah. There's so much information and truth out here, but it's hidden in plain sight. Right in the middle of all your YouTube and TikTok videos, people just doing stupid stuff. You got to research for this stuff. They don't show you this stuff. They rather show you somebody doing some kind of crazy dance or some kind of challenge or, stuff that's not going to do you a bit of good. But the info is out here, y'all. All right, let's get this one going here. Yeah, let me get this going for you.
What my story showed was that the cocaine that was being sold in those neighborhoods was coming from mainly one source, and this one source was being used to finance a guerrilla war in Central America. The general idea of the CIA dealing drugs was something that the American mainstream press had never written about before, and that's why it prompted outrage among blacks, among drug reform activists, among politicians, by the CIA, by every federal agency involved in the drug war, because it showed they weren't doing their jobs, that it was a fraud. Right after we published the stories, the support we got from the media was very favorable. Newsweek magazine did a big piece on the story and said it was well documented and well researched. The website was getting like 1 million hits a day. There were marches in Watts, there were marches in Compton, there were candlelight vigils. Every California senator demanded an official investigation. So the story itself was really building momentum. The government reaction was no reaction. And this, I believe, was a very careful strategy, because nobody was going to believe the government if they came out and said we didn't do it. The proof was fairly overwhelming, since we had all these government documents showing that it had happened. So what happened was they let the so-called liberal press speak for them. and they had the national security reporters at the Washington Post, who coincidentally used to work for the CIA, write stories saying it doesn't mean anything. It was a distraction from what the story said, and it became sort of a media war between the Mercury News, which stood behind the story at that point, and the rest of the establishment media who wanted us to back away from it. And part of that reason was because these major newspapers had written about this issue back in the 1980s, but had written about it very dismissively, as if this is nonsense, it doesn't happen, it never happened. And then 10 years later, we came back with documentation showing that it was absolutely true, and that it was worse than we imagined. We had gotten a story out around them, and we had gotten it out in a big way that they couldn't control, and that was through the internet. And I think a lot of this was directed to the Mercury News to say, we don't care what documentation you have, we don't care what kind of story you've got, we set the national news agenda. And if we don't like your story, we will kill your story regardless of its truth. The media rejoiced when this came out because it meant they had won. They had forced a newspaper to back away from a story that was true, simply because of this barrage of criticism, of mindless criticism, essentially, that really took its toll on the editors of the newspaper. And they were being seen as sort of outcasts from the club. And I think they made a political decision that it was better in the long run to take a dive on this story and get back in the good graces of the rest of the media. It was essentially a war between my editors and myself, because I wouldn't apologize for the story or back away from the story, and fought them on it publicly. And so they transferred me to a bureau that was 140 miles from where I lived, and I called in sick a lot. One of the things I'm proudest of in regards to that story is the website that the Mercury News set up, because it really was the first time that a newspaper brought its readers not only into the interior of the paper, but into the reporters' notebooks. You know, this was a story that, as I told my editors, had a very high unbelievability factor built into it. A lot of people were going to say, this can't be true. And this story became a sensation because of the website, not because of the story, but because people could get to it. And they could never have gotten to it before, because the San Jose Mercury News is a small regional newspaper in Northern California that you couldn't read if you lived in New York, or you couldn't read if you lived in LA. But this story you could read anywhere in the world and see all of our documentation. So it became, and we did this on purpose to make it very hard to knock down, to make it very difficult for people to say this didn't happen. But they said it didn't happen anyway.
So our brother Gary Webb, he's the journalist that exposed the whole connection with the United States government there, and the basically where they brought crack into the hood and sold it and used the money from it, as he said, to finance the Nicaraguan war. So salute to our brother Gary Webb. You know, it's not just black people out here, you know, that are standing for truth, that know the truth, that believe it, and more importantly, that actually set out and do something about it. do something to expose it, regardless of the risk. So, once again, salute to our brother Gary Webb. There's a lot of white people out here doing the same thing. My white brothers and sisters, it's a significant risk, and they deleted our brother Gary Webb here. So, again, salute to you, brother. All right, we're gonna keep it going. I got more for you. For my young viewers, make sure you do your research on Gary Webb and the CIA's connection. That the whole thing was involved with. Another name for you to research is Ollie North. All right, it goes along with that whole crack cocaine CIA thing. All right, well, we're gonna pop into the next one. Again, y'all, hit that like button. Y'all getting this work today. Katie Smooth is giving y'all the business. All right, here we go.
There was a lawyer once. His name was Francis Scott Key. He penned a song that I'm sure you're aware of. You've seen it. It's in most hymnals throughout our churches. It's called the national anthem. It is our song as an American. We go, however, to a ball game. We stand in our church services and we sing the words of that song, and they float over our minds and our lips, and we don't even realize what we're singing. Most of us have memorized it as a child, but we've never really thought about what it means. Let me tell you a story. Francis Scott Key was a lawyer in Baltimore.
D.L. Hughley once called the Star-Spangled Banner a diss track on black people. When you hear the national anthem, they only sing the first verse, because after that is when they start talking about the pleasures of killing runaway slaves. A lawyer from Baltimore named Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner, which is our national anthem. This same Francis Scott Key is responsible for the first ever race riot, after he tried to prosecute an abolitionist. In a book called What So Proudly We Hailed, author Mark Leapson goes in on Francis and speaks about how derogatory the song is. This man, Francis, was a hardcore slave-owning racist. The U.S. was at war with the British over what we know as Canada today. Unexpectedly, the U.S. declared war against them during the time when the British was getting busy against the French. So with them being short-handed, they started recruiting slaves from the U.S. They started recruiting the slaves to the system in the war, telling all U.S. slaves if they participated in the war, they would be set free. The poem Star-Spangled Banner was written based on everything that Francis Scott Key witnessed during the war. Just take a look at these lyrics for a second.
But you don't know where it came from. Next question. Wait a minute. John Newton, one of the most evil, ungodly, if there could be anybody on the planet more evil than the devil, it was John Newton.
Hey, family. Yeah. Baba Dick Gregory said it the best. We're going to keep on moving on. Did you know? Did you know? That's what I want to know. Did you know? All right, I got another one for you. All right? We got some more for you. Let's get this together here. Oh, the devil always trying to mess me up here. But I'm going to work on it. I'm going to fix the sound on it here in just a minute. All right, here we go. Let's get it.
Yes, this is the market we're talking about, the new Negro family. Or Wilson, Smith, or Brown, or Alexander, or Breen. They live in Chicago, in Atlanta, or New York, in Detroit, St. Louis, Los Angeles, any one of 1,000 cities and towns. All over the country, families such as this are enjoying new prosperity. They have new interests, new standards of living, a buying power they've never enjoyed before. There are good prospects for practically all types of goods and services. All too often, though, they're overlooked prospects. Why? Because of some good, valid reason? No. They're overlooked because of mistaken ideas, because of out-of-date ideas about how the Negro lives and how he buys. The truth of the matter is that the Negro lives pretty much the same as other folks. He buys pretty much the same way, too. But just the same, a lot of old doubts and opinions keep cropping up over and over again.
I don't like to do business with Negroes. They're drifters. You can't keep track of them.
Yes, although a lot of people think that way, the truth is that 1 out of every 3 Negro families living in cities today owns its own home. That figure comes directly from the United States Bureau of Census.
Maybe so, but Negroes are poor credit risks.
Not more of a credit risk than any other group. Actually, the Negro homebuyer meets his payments faithfully, often more faithfully than other race groups in the same economic level. That's the information we got from people who ought to know, the National Association of Real Estate Boards.
Well, maybe, but I've always heard that Negroes buy shoddy, poor-quality merchandise.
No, it's just the other way around. According to leading researchers, in proportion to population and income, Negroes buy more quality products than any other comparable United States group. You see, there are a lot of confused notions about the Negro customer. But when you dig right down and find out about them, they just don't hold water. Negroes own homes. They meet their payments faithfully. They buy good brands of merchandise. So why let a lot of old-fashioned ideas hurt profits? Take a look at the real facts. Here in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, some amazing facts and figures about this new market have been uncovered. For a first-hand report, we would like to take you directly to the United States Department of Commerce to hear this story from the Secretary of Commerce himself. Here is the Honorable Sinclair Weeks, the Secretary of Commerce of the United States.
In the Department of Commerce, we are constantly alert to trends that mean a healthier national economy, better business for the nation as a whole. Recently, we have been interested in a rising young market, one that represents a huge potential for goods and services. I'm referring to the new Negro market. The tremendous buying power of this group is backed, of course, by an increased earning power. The average Negro family's income is at a record high. In fact, since 1939, it has increased more than the average income of all other Americans. Just take a look at a few figures. An official Department of Commerce report shows that at least 1/3 of the Negroes living in cities earn from $2,000 to $5,000 a year. Today, the average Negro wage earner brings home a paycheck 4 times larger than the one he collected in 1939. As a whole, the Negro market has a total income of about $15 billion every year. And after taxes, Negro families still have many billions of dollars to spend. Here is a buying power that cannot help but have a tremendous effect on our national economy and on business prosperity in general. When these dollars are spent for a wide range of goods, services, and employment, business everywhere is bound to feel the impact.
Now you know, family, or you're beginning to learn why they purposely do a whole gang of things to stop and prevent business growth within the hood. Okay? But they still want our money. So they create these desert situations in the hoods to force us to have to go where? With our money. Right. Okay. Let's continue.
This new buying power has resulted in a class Negro market, a profitable, above-average income group of consumers. For example, the nation's largest newspaper and magazine research organization, Daniel Starch and staff, reports these significant figures. More than 51% of the readers of Ebony magazine have a record player in their homes. Almost 64% own a television set. And almost 78% enjoy the convenience of an electric refrigerator. It is also a fact, and this is from the magazine The Food Field Reporter, that Negroes spend almost $3 billion a year for food alone. Per capita, they buy more cosmetics, drugs, and toiletries than anyone else in the country. And their children are better educated, too, because since 1930, enrollment in Negro colleges is up 2,500%. But really, to recognize the importance of this class Negro market, we must realize that something has been happening economically in our country. People are on the move. The population is shifting. The makeup of metropolitan populations today is different than it was just a few short years ago. To give you a better idea of what we mean, we set up several cameras, candid cameras, in a number of shopping locations. Take a look at these shoppers. Notice what a large proportion of them are Negroes. What's the reason? It's simply this. Negro families are moving into the cities where there are more job opportunities. Here they find occupations with more prestige and security, jobs that pay more money. As a result, Negro families today often make up the largest part of Central City consumer prospects. A shoe store in Chicago, for example, reports that more than 50% of its customers are Negroes. In another case, a drugstore located at a transfer point in a non-Negro neighborhood finds that its Negro customers total 25%. The trend is plain. The new Negro families today are moving into more populated areas, to the cities, where there are more stores, more buying opportunities. Since 1940, in San Francisco alone, the Negro market has increased by 89%. In Chicago, by 81%. Houston, Texas, 45%. Philadelphia, 50%. The impact of this new buying force is so tremendous that actually in 14 major United States markets, a product cannot be number one without Negro support. A product must have...
Say it again. This is why they do everything they can to stop and prevent business development and growth in the hood. It's done. They've been knowing this information for a long time, y'all. It's being done on purpose to funnel our money to their businesses and their neighborhoods. Because that makes their businesses and neighborhoods successful. Meanwhile, the black neighborhoods become deserts. There's no jobs, no business development. No, black people, they don't want to give black people business loans. It's a whole systematic system designed to funnel or redirect our money out of our pockets into theirs.
Of the backing of this big new buying power to be a leader in the field. What do you have to sell? Chewing gum or cars? Toothpaste or transportation? Whatever it is, here are millions of prospects, and these prospects are everywhere. Negro customers can no longer be pigeonholed. They cannot be classified as prospects who trade only in certain stores, certain neighborhoods. Today, Negroes shop downtown. They shop in supermarkets. They shop in small neighborhood stores. They'll buy...
Side note, sisters. You see how beautifully dressed this sister is out shopping? Got her hair on fleek. She ain't got no bonnet on, young, especially young sisters. She ain't got no chest booty showing. She ain't out here twerking. I mean, you don't have to dress exactly like her, but what happened? I'm sorry, y'all. I digress.
Buy from anyone who wants to sell to them. But we all know that before you can sell to customers, you've got to get to know them.
And yeah, this dude is dressed the same way we dress as men today. Most men don't wear hats or fedoras, but, you know, other than that, the fellas are still dressing pretty much the same. Except, I will admit, this brother ain't out here sagging. Got his drawers showing. His hair is not. Man, I digress. I'm sorry.
You must understand something about them. What do the Negro customers buy? Why do they buy? How do you sell to them? Let's find out. Let's hear the opinion of men who have spent a lifetime studying the buying habits of customers the world over. Here is what sales psychologists have to say about selling to the Negro.
The secret of selling to the Negro is expressed in one word. That word is recognition. Now, there's nothing unusual about that. People want to be recognized. They need recognition. That's basic in all of us. Do you wonder why? Well, listen to what this customer is thinking.
That last hat I bought just didn't hold up at all.
You see, for a long time, the Negro has been sold a lot of shoddy, second-class merchandise. So now he asks for name brands in order to make sure he gets his money's worth. Buying by brand, that's the first important Negro buying habit. Now for the second. The Negro buys good quality merchandise. Symbols of quality and prestige are very important to the Negro customer. This woman, for example, is buying fine crystalware. But she is also buying the admiration and approval of her friends and relatives. Listen to her thoughts.
My, isn't it beautiful? I can hardly wait to show it to Sally and Joan.
It's a well-known fact that many Negro customers are influenced by the opinions of others. What their friends may think of a certain item often decides whether or not the sale is made. So remember, the Negro buys quality merchandise. That's the second important point. And here's the third thing to remember when selling to a Negro customer. When he specifically asks for one thing, don't try to sell him something else. Don't try to switch him at the point of sale. If you do, he'll probably react something like this.
Doesn't he think I've got the money to pay for it?
There's a reason for this reaction. Again, because he's had experience with cheap merchandise, the Negro resents being offered a substitute. He wants to be sold on quality, not price. The Negro buys by brand, he buys quality, and he doesn't like to be switched at point of sale. These are the keys to selling the Negro customer. Another point. The Negro family does things together, as a group. The family works as a unit. It lives as a unit, and it buys as a unit. When you sell...
One more time, y'all. That used to be the case, obviously. Today, y'all know. And so that's another reason why we do not have the economic power that we used to have, is the destruction of the black family. I can go down that rabbit hole, but we're gonna stay right here with this one for now.
Sell to one member, you many times sell to all. It's also true that many places of entertainment are still closed to the Negro. So he spends more of his money for the things that are available to him, often for items that are considered luxuries. Another trait of the Negro market is the fact that it is a pre-sold market. We know that the Negro buys by brand, and he buys the brands that he knows something about. Where does the Negro buyer get this information? We know that Negro customers are turning more and more to the publications that are tailored specifically to their needs, that give them the news and the information that they want to read about. Many leading businessmen and companies already know this. That's why so many of them are taking this direct, sure route of reaching the Negro customer. The vice president of advertising of the Gruen Watch Company, for example, says this.
In many important cities throughout the United States, Negroes are important customers of the credit jeweler. Therefore, it seemed that Ebony magazine would be a very important advertising medium for us. We would say it was very well received, and from our viewpoint, a very successful campaign.
From the Remington Rand Company comes this statement.
Our records show that advertising in Ebony has been effective in many ways. As all good advertising should, it has built a terrific amount of goodwill and has brought a volume of sales and sales inquiries.
A representative of the Alaga Syrup Company makes this statement.
Because of Alaga's regard for the influence of Ebony in the Negro market, advertising space was doubled. Alaga's long experience in selling to Negroes now takes the most direct route to its best customers, reaching Ebony's 2.5 million audience in every issue.
And here are the statements of still other business leaders.
Yes, many business leaders are discovering the most direct and most efficient way of reaching the new Negro market. Look here at the results of the same advertisement in two different publications, Ebony and another general magazine. You can see that proportionately, more men and women read the ad in Ebony than the one in the other magazine. And they did a better job of remembering it, too. A greater percentage of readers noted, associated, and remembered the ad in Ebony. But now, wait a minute. If the Negro market is so big and easy to reach, why aren't more companies going out after it? Well, often because of the feeling that there's something entirely different, unusual about selling to the Negro. But is it really so different? What do salesmen say? The successful salesmen who do a good job of selling in Negro communities. How do you go about getting the order?
How do I get the order? Well, to tell you the truth, I don't do anything. Anything different, that is. I've been calling on these accounts long enough to know that the Negro just wants to be treated like everybody else. No matter who you're calling on, a little friendliness and courtesy help a lot. Naturally, anybody resents being patronized or talked down to. So I usually call a man Mr. Brown, Mr. Smith, or Mr. whatever his name is, until he tells me to call him by his first name. And of course, I always stick to business. I stay away from talk about race or religion or politics. That goes for talk about Negro celebrities, too. You know, this business about what good prize fighters and singers the Negroes are. Who cares? When a guy's in business, no matter what color his skin is, he's interested in making a living, in making money. That's uppermost in his mind. I guess maybe what I'm saying is that I try to help any way I can, sometimes with displays or ad materials, or an idea once in a while. The important thing is that if it helps push sales for the dealer, it helps push them for me, too.
Handle the Negro account just like any of your others. Don't patronize. Stick to business. Get interested in the account. Pitch in and help any way you can. Sounds like pretty good sales advice. That's the secret of selling the Negro. Well, how about it? What do you think of this new market? It can...
Yeah, family. How about it? We've known this stuff for centuries. Did you know? Did you know all of your media today is targeted to the black community? I mean, you know about your commercials and your pop-ups and things like that on social media, but your music videos and the type of music that's pushed, that's all done on purpose. They realize not only the power of and the effect of target advertising, but then they started using that same method to push certain narratives, certain ideas. Can you say gangster rap? Can you say all this twerking stuff, all this stripper mentality? I mean, it's being pushed. For my young listeners, go back into when rap was hip hop. None of that stuff was pushed back then. Education, knowledge, self-respect was pushed in during hip hop. But then all of a sudden, they use this whole advertising template to start pushing agendas. And you wonder why your kids are running around sagging, why your daughters are running around twerking. And they think, oh, it's the thing to do. They have been programmed. That's why when you turn on the TV, of course, you're tuning into your local or national programming. All right, we gonna move on. Like I said, I can go down these rabbit holes, but I'm a chill. I'm just trying to get through these. The next one, this one will be good, y'all. This one is another one clip from our brother from Australia on the system that we're in. He's gonna break it down for you nice and slow. So put your thinking caps on, okay? Gotta listen close. Stay with it. Here we go.
Our own standing. A very clever man said to me very savvy in the law, said to me, it's too late to say I don't consent when you're standing in the court. And this is true too. Because if you're in the court, then something's gone wrong. You've become their property or subject to their rules, their laws, and the governments that we have today, especially after 1973 when Gotham signed the Unidroit Treaty of Rome, which handed the administration of Australia over to a foreign United Nations entity under the control, basically, of the Vatican. And the Vatican have been sort of...
Real quick, family. It's not just Australia that's under control of the Vatican and Rome, still to this day. It's also the U.S. and most other countries that were colonized by the splintered but still together Roman Empire of Europe. Okay? Let's continue.
Doing this for at least the last 2,000 years, but it probably goes back further than that. The Vatican has always had its control over the world, and that's because the Vatican owns the copyright on the type of system that they control the people with, and the people are being controlled with or by a just a military system, a standard military water law system. The reason why the laws of water are controlling us men and women that are on the land is because they needed to bring in a different controlling system for people other than the controlling system of land, because the common law of land it's a freedom. We control ourselves on land. So what they had to do is they created a jurisdiction of the sea, a controlling system of the sea. And what they had to do was invite us to join them on their ship or on their fiction corporate ship in order to become under the control of their system, because their system cannot control men and women. They don't have jurisdiction with that. So rather than them coming onto the land and controlling us, what they've done is parked their ships, their corporations, their foreign entities on our land, like as in ships in dry dock. And then they invite us onto their ship or into their corporations. And then once we enter into their corporation, under their tokens, they give us a name to enter into their jurisdiction, into their ships. And once they achieve that, or once they grant you a name and you accept that name, then that name is their property and you've attached yourself to their name. And that's how they start to control us in such a way, because we have become a part or a crew member on their corporate ships. And that's what birth certificates are all about. It is a certificate of you birthing onto one of their ships. Birth certificate. And the date of birth is the date when a person, they say, is born. But a person doesn't exist until it becomes an incorporation. So persons are incorporations. It means that a person is a man joined to something. So that's when the incorporation happens. The minute you become incorporated with something, or join a ship, or join a foreign entity, then you legally become the person. and persons are controlled by the Vatican, which is because the Vatican controls all of the incorporated, or you could say all the corruptions in the world, because our given Christian name is one name, even though there may be 2 or 3 words that make up the one name. It is one name, and that one name does not have the family name attached to it. So what the Vatican must do, or the ships that park their ships, their shipping corporations, foreign shipping corporations on our land, is that they must get you to join their ship and give you a name that belongs to the ship, so you can attach yourself to it. Now they know that no man in his right mind would go and attach himself to some foreign ship and wind up being deemed lost at sea and never likely to return. And while you do that, then whoever offered you the legal titles to put you onto the ship have a right to your equity if you don't come back. So that's all they do. They just wait for you not to return. And the reason why you don't return back onto the land is because the name that they gave you is a name that you thought and assumed and believed was your name. Think about it. They gave you a name that belonged to them, that you assumed belonged to you. And then this bloke comes along called Christ, and he tells you, he warns you. He said, in my name you shall be saved. But if you accept the company name, the corporate name, then you are with them. And I think it's quite stated in many parts of the Bible that if you are not with me, you are against me. So if you worship or accept the foreign name of the ship that's dry docked onto your land, then you are not with Christ. So therefore, Christ cannot save you. But even though you believe that your name is your name, when you think about it, and when you read this shipping document carefully, that's all it takes. You just got to read it and have a look. Because John Henry Doe is only John Henry. He has one Christian name. And John Henry, the 2 words, make up the one Christian name. But what the state has given John Henry is a name with the incorporated family name attached to the John Henry, and called it John Henry Doe. And the minute you believe that your name is John Henry Doe, then you have attached the name of the foreign shipping corporation that is under the control of the Vatican, which is the control of the sea. You've attached your body to their name, and you have abandoned Christ's name. So therefore, you step from the creditor, which is the Christian, into the debtor. The Christian name is John Henry. When you claim the John Henry Doe name, written in proper English, as capitalized common law English, once you accept the John Henry Doe, you are deemed by Christ to serve another deity. You are worshipping the gods of the sea, or you're worshipping the gods of the Vatican, which are not the gods of Moses, and certainly not the God of Christ. Because Christ said, in my name you shall be saved. So the Christian name of John Henry Doe is John Henry. On his certificate, birthing certificates, his Christian name is John Henry. The only person that has surnames on these documents is your parents, because they have already assumed the surname by the time they created the certificate for you. But they certainly make sure that when you're born, you are correct, which is just John Henry. And then what happens is, as you are indoctrinated, by the time you turn 21, the age of majority, you have no idea about what's happening to this banking, private, shipping, foreign document. No idea whatsoever. So the remedy of the system is simply knowing who you are. The other thing is the date of birth, is the date that you birthed your body to the corporation. And in the system, the Christian Judea system that the Vatican runs, it has a debtor and a creditor, or the office of creditor and the office of debtor. And if you attach yourself or birth yourself to the office of the debtors, then you will pay the debts of the Vatican. But when you birth yourself to the office of the creditor, see, that's a birth. And if you look at your two birthing certificates, one is the state birth certificate, which is the debtor state, but the creditor state, if you find that certificate, the date of birth was around 1 month or a few weeks after you were born. The word born does not mean birth. The word born means born into life or existence. And sometimes the word life really means the duration of a contract. So if you birth yourself into the ship or the office of the debtors, then I think they call that the pagans, the pagan trust, the pagans of the debtors, which are pagans, pagan. And the lifespan of a pagan is 70 years and 10. So the lifespan of the pagan is 70 years. And if you enter in from when you turn 21 and you remain in the office of the debtors, holding the surname or the surety name, which is really John Henry Doe. That's the surety name because it's incorporated. If you remain holding that name, then you will be deemed as the debtor, the one that pays the debts. And when you're a debtor or a crew member on a ship, you don't have rights, you have a privilege, but you also have statutes. And if you follow the rules of the ship, then you will have liberty to go on shore. But if you break the rules of the ship, you may lose your liberty and wind up in the hold, which is the cell, and you will not have freedom. But it's not freedom. Liberty and freedom are not the same thing. But if you want your freedom back, to not be on the ship and not be a part of the debtors of the ship, if you want to travel on that ship, being looked after as the creditor, where the crew members look after you, and you simply enjoy the ship. And the skipper is just happy to have you on board. Whereas the crew, the skipper, who is the magistrate, he makes sure the crew does what they're told. The difference is your standing. That's the remedy. The difference is your name, the Christian name or the pagan name. Not the old uppercase name, I'm talking about a name written in proper English. John Henry is the creditor name. John Henry Doe is the debtor name. The thing is, if you assume yourself to be John Henry Doe, then you're holding the property of the Registrar General of your certificate of birth. Now, if you have a look at a certificate of birth, in the margin, on the right hand side of the margin, it says in black and white and signed by the Registrar General, who in Queensland is at the moment, 2018, is David John. He has signed that, stating that John Henry Doe is in his custody. So he has the ability to allow John Henry to have liberty to go ashore or to remain in the hold. But John Henry Doe is the slave servant of the Registrar General. So think about your name, think about who you are, have a look at your driver licenses, your passports, and all the state paraphernalia that you think your name is on. And because you've claimed all of those instruments, then they, the state, have a right to assume that you are on their ship. And as I said, the ships are the law of the water. The law of the water is controlled by the Vatican. The Vatican controls all incorporations, and an incorporation is a corruption of Christ's name. Anything incorporated that's joined is a corruption. Whereas you, the given name, is one name, and it is not corrupt, it is pure. So therefore, the serpents, the usurpers of the sea, the Vatican, and its foreign military, such as the United States Securities Exchange Commissions, the United Nations, anything united is subject to the law of the Vatican. What? The corpus juris, the laws of the dead. And when you are incorporated and joined to another foreign entity, then you are assumed dead, lost at sea. That's why they call it the corpus juris. So while you're dead, but you haven't got a death certificate, you must be in some form of purgatory. So all of the controlling of these souls, these dead souls, is done by the chambers of the Vatican. If you look inside the Vatican, as you walk in to the Vatican, the text written on the outside of the Vatican is proper ancient Latin. It has the hyphens or the marks between the signs. But when you walk into the Vatican, in the cross, which means dead, the chambers of the dead, if you look up the ceiling of the Vatican, around the edges, they use debased dog Latin, which is the Latin text, the all uppercase text, that has no marks between the signs, which is Babylonian. It means absolutely nothing. But while you assume that, while you are assumed to be dead, lost at sea, then you are inside the chambers of the Vatican. A chamber is a tomb. You've been entombed. You're in the dead. And that text that's inside the Vatican is the same text that's written on these documents. It's the same text that's written on your power bills, your rates notices, your driver licenses. That is the language, the jurisdiction of the incorporated dead souls. And how are you? Where is your standing? What are you? Are you the free, the living? Are you pure? Do you hold Christ's name? Or are you incorporated and attached to the serpent of the sea? Remember Adam and Eve? That snake, the serpent, that came and tricked Eve into eating the fruit of the tree of the debtor, the tree of knowledge, becoming a usufruct of the tree of the foreign military. Well, that's the deception. And the snake is the serpent, which is the foreign militaries that come in the Vatican. Not only did God in the Garden of Eden warn Adam and Eve about that, Christ also warned you about it. So all of the warnings, not only from the Bible, are there, but in the very the Latin dictionaries and the very English dictionary, the meaning of the words. If you look closely enough to the meanings of the words, and if you learn how to read sign, you'll see the difference between sign and English. There can be no legal jurisdiction between two separate languages. So when you have dog Latin or debased Latin and English written on the one document, if you assume that to be one, then that is an incorporation. But if you are grammatically savvy, if you know what you're looking for and you know what you can see, then you will see that the all uppercase text, which is the Babylonian text, and the written English, when it's separated, the document reads nothing, nothing, nothing at all. It becomes the presumption of law. When you raise these matters with magistrates, they don't like it. But at some point the magistrate may work out that you know the dirty trick. But what they can do, the magistrates, is all they have to do is make sure that you are holding some form of attachment to the underworld. The minute they can find an attachment, some sort of a document with a license or identification that identifies you as a part of their underworld water law system, the usurping corporate ship that sits in dry dock on our lands, if you're attached to that ship, it doesn't matter what you say or do or think. The magistrate is going to salvage you and take your equity and administer your birthright, your true dominion, your ownership of the mineral and energy wealth of the land, the nation that you were born on. But when he can see that you know, he'll be heading for the door, because he is the actual debtor. He is the debtor. He's the first debtor. And we did not force him to join the to act as the magistrates. He applied for that job. I didn't force anyone to stand up there and act as the debtor. He has the tricks and the knowledge how to confer the debt back onto the creditor, to convert the creditor into the debtor. He has this ability, this knowledge, this sorcery, these tricks. But they are only just illusions, tricks, grammatical knowledge. And when you know that, and when you know their dirty tricks, then that's the remedy for the system. You always agree, and it's all offer and acceptance. So if they offer you the ability to act as one of their citizen debtors, then you can accept the offer. Absolutely, yes, I will be a citizen. But what you must do as a remedy is, what's it worth to lose your freedoms, your true standing as a man on land? Or in that case, you're standing as a creditor on their ship. You've been invited onto the ship originally as a creditor, as a guest. They will look after you on the ship. So you have to weigh that up. Do you want to be a crew member of their ship? So when they offer you a standing as a crew member, and think about it. Think about what it's worth. Offer and acceptance. Do you want to be a crew member? Then maybe you should be paid. You see what I'm saying? Then there's no conflict. There's no reason for them to assume that you are a belligerent. There's no reason for war. There's no reason for the military codes, the legal codes. There's no reason for the water law military to affect you, because you've already agreed to be a citizen of their foreign corporate ship, the City of London, the bar, a debtor of the bar. That's what you become. So if you want to become a debtor of the bar and be subject to those lying, deceiving, clever magistrates, then think about what it's worth. Because many of you just simply, and many of us just simply went along and fell into the standing of the debtors because of our own ignorance and stupidity, and us thinking that we knew everything. I know everything. I can run a business. but you knew nothing, absolutely nothing. And when you learn your grammar, and you learn who you are, and you learn the difference between sign language and the English common law language, which is the language of the sea and the language of the land, when you learn the differences between them and you start to recognize them on their documents, then you have the ability for remedy. You have the ability to accept their offer of citizenship. Accept it. Offer and acceptance. But what is the offer? To accept, to stand as the citizen of their foreign, unidroit, United Nations corruption. The remedy is probably simple, isn't it? You are John Henry, you are not John Henry Doe. If they force you to be John Henry Doe, then they are committing a crime. If they issue you documents through the mail and you don't accept them through the mail because there's something wrong with the writing on the document, then they still don't have any jurisdiction over you. If you crack open the seals of those articles or of those envelopes that come, then you have broken the seal into the world of the dead, the spells. You will be attached to the spell that's attached to that document. You will find this hard going in some cases. As two friends of mine are going through a hard time. Rowan Lorian is still in prison, but they will not show him any of the paperwork because they know he can see the fraud. I don't know what they're going to do, but they're being belligerent and they are committing absolute serious crime by holding that man in prison after he's asked to see what is the charge and can he see the charge documents. Because he knows there was no offer and acceptance. That's outright slavery. And that's a dangerous thing for the state, and I think the Vatican knows that too. So even though the remedy may not come, or the remedy may come with imprisonment and a good right bashing, as I've witnessed all of these things, and many threats against myself and my family. But I must admit, this has stopped because of that last court case. I think that the magistrate had recognised that I knew a little bit more about it than what the average man and woman knows about it. So he could not do his trick, you could say. His illusion could not work. So the remedy is knowing who you are. And when you know who you are and you can see the grammatical deceptions on their paperwork, then you can see that it is nothing at all. The old saying of kicking a dead horse is, if they keep on pushing it, it's as good as kicking a dead horse, because in the end they can't prove that anything existed, because when they did it, they made sure that nothing existed in case someone worked it out. And when someone works it out, it's then when they'll back off and say, oh, okay, you've worked it out. And of course, it's our own fault because we accepted it. We thought it was something when it was nothing. So it's not their fault. It's our own stupidity and our fault. But once it's pointed out to them and they continue on with it, that's when the real remedy will start. That's when the charges will start to come. The damage. You've been hurt by the state. And, well, we are already rich. We are already wealthy. The poorest man in the street has a birthright. But it's been administered by these usurping serpents, these foreign administrative corporations. it can still remain like that. But rather than you being the debtor of them so that they can serve you, but if you're not there, then they will keep it themselves. So you must return back from debtor into creditor. And when you pull that off, when you get that, then you'll understand the value of the Vatican, the value of the magistrates, the value of all their courts. You'll start to see that, well, maybe it's a good thing because they're getting all of you to basically work for nothing. But as long as you have a good life inside on their corporate ship, and if you're happy there, then turn this off. But the very fact that if you're watching this, you are already curious to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, family. All you so-called Catholics and Christians, you thought you really knew what Christianity is all about and this system that we live up under. You thought you knew. Yeah, you thought you understood what happened in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. You thought you fully understood. That's why we call this the rabbit hole. 'Cause you never know how far the rabbit hole goes. For those that could understand what our brother Romilly Stewart was saying, for if you got you got a good portion there. Most of his information, family, I gotta tell you, you gotta review it 2, 3, 4, 5 times, over a period of time for it all to really sink in. Like you got that video, you gotta watch it like 4, 5 times, because each time you watch it, more of it it's like you start to see more and more and understand more. You're like, wait a minute. What's happening is the scale is being slowly removed from your eyes, and you can begin to understand. Most people, they listen to that, they like, man, this dude's mumbo jumbo. Okay, you ain't ready. You're not ready. But for a lot of y'all was like, wait, what? Yeah. It was touching on some things, and it that was your what is still alive in you. That was that part of you going, wait a minute, what? And right now you're sitting there going, I need to know more. His channel on YouTube is the Justinian Deception. I encourage y'all to check him out. And don't go to his channel and his videos and watch the first one. Don't do that. Go all the way to the oldest video and watch it from that one coming up forward. Because if you try to jump in on the most recent one, there's so much that you've missed out on. You see? Okay? All right, we're gonna jump in here one more again. We're gonna jump in here one more again. Yeah, the rabbit hole. Let's go.
It's 1965, and a young Navy veteran and factory worker needs a side job to support his growing family. He hits upon an idea. A painting business. It takes no special training and little initial investment, only about $250. For almost a decade, he paints houses, barns, signs, businesses, anything people ask for. And each year, he brings in an extra $5,000, or in today's dollars, about $39,000. That young Navy veteran was my father. Today, if I want to do the same thing, it would not be nearly as easy. In a lot of states, I'd have to jump through multiple hoops. I would have to apprentice for up to 5 years, pass at least one examination, and pay hundreds in fees to the state before I could do the same thing and get paid. Why? Occupational licensing. Many jobs now require a government permission slip, otherwise known as an occupational license, just to work. Jobs like locksmith, shampooer, tree trimmer, florist, and hundreds of others. Working without a license can often result in significant fines and even jail time. But it wasn't always this way. In the 1950s, only about 1 in 20 workers needed a license. Today, that number is about 1 in 4. And earning a license can often require significant amounts of time and money. It's no wonder then that the issue of occupational licensing has become one of the biggest labor economics issues in the country. And it often plays out in places as simple as your neighborhood barbershop. So June, how much did it cost you to get your barber's license?
Well, I think it cost me about $11,000.
Oh, and how long did it take?
By law, I was required to do 1,000 hours of classes.
1,000 hours in order to do this, and maybe this. Proponents will tell you that licensing is necessary to protect public health and safety. But is it true? We came here to the University of Minnesota, the Humphrey School of Public Affairs, to ask the preeminent researcher on licensing, Dr. Morris Kleiner. So Dr. Kleiner, how much evidence is there that licensing actually protects public health and safety?
Not very much. There is some evidence, but the preponderance of the evidence suggests that it doesn't do much to protect health and safety.
Well, then surely licensing must increase quality of service and weed out charlatans and quacks, right?
Well, my work suggests there's virtually no effect on overall quality.
Well, if that's the case, then what does licensing do?
Well, it's great for individuals who are fortunate enough to be licensed. And let me give you an illustration.
Okay.
If you view this circle as being an occupation, licensing serves as a fence to keep people out of the occupation. So if someone tries to get in, this fence serves as a barrier to entry.
Okay, so then what's the effect?
Well, licensing drives up wages and prices for those individuals who are fortunate enough to be licensed.
So then people who are kept out, that means there are fewer job opportunities.
That's correct, and especially for individuals who are entrepreneurs or individuals who might work for those entrepreneurs.
That includes workers on the lower rungs of the economic ladder. Our study, License to Work, examines the licensing requirements for 102 lower income occupations across all 50 states and the District of Columbia. We found that breaking into these jobs takes, on average, almost a year in education and training, passing an exam, and more than $260 in fees. Of course, licensing limits job opportunities. But that's just part of the story. In future episodes, we'll discuss how licenses are often designed to protect licensees from competition, not the public. We'll explore alternatives and suggest reforms that can untangle the red tape of licensing to put more Americans back to work. In the meantime, click the link to read our report and subscribe to our channel in order to see future episodes.
Did you know, did you know, did you know? You should be getting a particular general understanding, family. When you go down the rabbit hole, you start to realize not only that you've been lied to for your whole life about so many things, but how much you've been lied to and how little you actually know. Okay? Yeah. Let's continue. All right.
You often hear Trump and Republicans in Congress railing against so-called welfare programs, by which they mean programs that provide health care or safety nets to ordinary Americans. But you almost never hear them complaining about another form of welfare that lines the pockets of wealthy corporations. We must end corporate welfare now. There are several ways corporations get rich on the taxpayer's dime. The most obvious comes through subsidies or tax breaks for certain businesses or industries. Consider the fossil fuel industry, one of the most profitable and privileged sectors of the economy. Every year, oil companies get to deduct millions of dollars from their tax bills for the cost of new wells, oil exploration, and other drilling and mining expenses. It's been estimated that repealing these special tax breaks would save taxpayers $39 billion over 10 years. Other examples of corporate welfare include billions in government subsidies for agricultural conglomerates, pharmaceutical makers, tech giants, and defense contractors. Other industries don't get these benefits. Meanwhile, most families don't even benefit from tax credits and deductions for childcare. State and local governments are also handing out corporate welfare, often with no strings attached. In 2013, for example, the state of Washington approved a record $8.7 billion handout to Boeing in order to maintain and grow its workforce within the state. What did Boeing do? In the following years, it laid off more than 12,000 workers in the state. State and local tax breaks for corporations are estimated to cost local schools almost $2 billion a year in lost tax revenue. It's argued they create jobs, yet nationwide not a single new job is created. At most, the jobs are merely moved from state to state. Now, how do corporations get this corporate welfare? Well, follow the money. They spend hundreds of millions on lobbying and campaign contributions. Here's an even more insidious example of corporate welfare. When corporations don't pay their workers a living wage, those workers have to rely on programs like Medicaid, public housing, food stamps, and other safety nets, which means you and I and other taxpayers end up subsidizing these low wages so those corporations can enjoy even higher profits for their executives and wealthy investors. For example, every year, Americans spend an estimated $153 billion in taxes and on programs to subsidize McDonald's and Walmart's low-wage workers. Here's the bottom line. When corporations get special handouts from the government, it costs the rest of us. We have to pay more in taxes to make up for these hidden tax breaks, subsidies, and loopholes. In turn, we have less money for good schools and roads, Medicare and national defense, and everything else we need. So the next time you hear conservatives railing against welfare handouts for the poor, remind them that we should really be cutting corporate welfare, unnecessary and unwarranted aid for dependent corporations. What do you think?
Yeah. This the rabbit hole, pimpin'. We do this, man. We do this. Get your late pass. Get your late pass. All right. You've been played. Yes, you've been played. I got more for you. All right. This one, we're going to have a quick look at. I had mentioned this in some previous video reports here on One Brothas Mind in regards to who the slaves that were brought over during the transatlantic slave trade, who they really were, who they really are. And that they are, or were, the descendants from the black Hebrew Israelite tribe of Judah and Benjamin. Go to One Brothas Mind, go to the playlist, go in the biblical case for the black Hebrew Israelite tribe and just start watching videos. I'll break it all down. But here's another little short clip for you. It's documented, just like all the other information I've shown you, either in scripture or historical documentation. Check this one out, family. Oh, wait. This is not that one yet. This is not that one yet. This is this is what black Americans or descendants of the transatlantic slave trade have had to deal with and are fighting against. So, to my white listeners, my white brothers and sisters, this y'all. This is the advantage that y'all have received in the U.S. Let's focus there. Financially. Yeah, you're still running your race. You're still tired. You're still exerting yourself. But you've inherited wealth for several hundred years. Meanwhile, those of us foundational black Americans, the descendants of the slave trade, we weren't even allowed to participate. We weren't even paid to start off for our labor. Then when we started getting paid at every point, we were paid, basically, we were still being robbed. We were paid slave wages. We weren't paid our fair share. And then, even when we would try to save up and use our fair share, you're going to see in a moment, this system, y'all's system, put additional obstacles in our way. Did you do it over here, running your own race? No. But you participate and contribute and support the system that was established and put in place that does this to us.
Let's also
all right, family. Yeah. It's a whole lot. Whole lot. And even more than they showed you there. Now, since I jumped the gun previously, now we're going to get into the information in regards to those of us that are descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, and the fact that not only was it known who we really are, it was documented for many of us. Okay? Real short clip. Okay? Here we go.
Let's talk about why it was necessary for the slave masters to change our ancestors' names. It was part of the ritual or the indoctrination process into this beast system. They marked them and they named them. It represented ownership. They, in essence, became their masters. They decided when they would eat, where they could go, what they could wear. Our ancestors became commodities, a product that could be bought and sold. I read this last time from Baruch 4-6. I'll read it again. You were sold to the nations not for your destruction, but because you moved God to wrath, you were delivered unto the enemies. It was not the Most High's intent to utterly destroy our people, but he had to chastise us. Chastisement was a way to show that he is just, that he's going to do what he say, and that he loves his children. Any good father is going to discipline their children when it's warranted. After years of pleading to our ancestors through the prophets to turn from the wickedness, he allowed us to be handed over to the people we kept trying to be like. And our enemies were brutal taskmasters. They felt that they had every right to do whatever they wanted to us, and that included changing the names. But why was it necessary? Our people had names, but it represented the God we serve. And the new master couldn't have that. So they were given new names, like Joseph when he went into Egypt. They changed his name. Daniel's name was changed. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, their names were changed. If you go to slavevoyages.org, click on database under resources and type in Yah or El, you'll see how many of them had Yah or El in their names. It's like when a corporation buys out another one of the first things they're going to do is change the name. I highlighted a few of them here just to draw your attention to it, but you look it up and you will be surprised. So the slave masters were given this task of naming what they called their property. This article from Encyclopedia of North Carolina says slaves remained nameless from the time of their capture until their purchase by American masters. But it also says some of them had assigned names that were given to them by the Spanish and the Portuguese. Some of them also were allowed to keep, their names, the names that they already had, but most of them had their names change. And it talks about how these slave masters would use whimsical or satirical or condescending names for them, like they would name them Cato or Hercules or Bacchus. Now Bacchus, why would they give them the name Bacchus? Just think about that. But it also goes on to say after emancipation, they said a number of African Americans went and had their names changed. They didn't want the names that the slave masters had given to them. I wonder why. This is
all right, y'all. Do that research. Go to slavevoyages.com. search for Yah and El in the names, you're going to be blown away. It brings a whole new meaning to the scripture when it says, to my people that are called by my name. That's it, family. For this rabbit hole trip, I pray and hope that you learned something, discovered something new that you need to do some more research on. And until next time, family, before we go, hit the like button, man. Hit the like button, share this report. You know you got this work this day. Katie Smooth put in. Share this report on all your social media with your peoples. Help us build our channel here. And then after you share it with them and y'all talking about it, ask them, hey, did you subscribe to that channel? Because we're going to keep on putting in this work. Like I said, y'all, many times before, the cat is out of the bag. Been out of the bag on the truth. There's so much truth out here, but as I also told you, they are wiping the internet. They are getting rid of this information. It's becoming more and more harder to find. That's one of the reasons why we do these rabbit hole reports. It's to help you. Help me help you. So when you see this information, capture it, download it. It's going to disappear soon. And you need it in your possession to be able to show your children, your children's children, and so on and so forth, because that day is coming. Again, you ain't gonna be able to find this stuff on the internet. Okay? So y'all let me know what you think. Let's chop it up in the comments. Even if you disagree with some of the information, let's chop it up in the comments, man. Break it down to me. Explain it your way to me. Help me understand what you're talking about. Okay? Because actually, that's how we all learn. Is we share the differences in our information, our understanding, no, without judgment, no matter who we are. And we discover more and more by doing that, we discover more and more of the truth. Okay? And this concludes this broadcast for One Brothas Mind. We thank you for joining us. And as a part of the new Black media, B1 choices are mandatory, and being on code is required. But never fear, Yeshua the Christ is with you always. Shalom.